All right, all right. Hey, everybody, it's Dave Cooper, DaveCooper.live. We are live on location in Washington, D.C. at the MMC's first set, and we're going to have special guests on today, Greg Ugalde. What's so special about today and everything that's going on is the collaboration that's happening in the industry. It's the collaboration that's happening amongst industry professionals, whether it's architects, engineers, manufacturers, builders, general contractors, or even the collaboration of having guests on like we're going to have today with Greg Ugalde, who is the immediate past chair of the NAHB. So they're going to join us with Jennifer Cooper because this is a building modular episode. So we're going to bring them in just 1 second. If you could, hit that like and share button right now. We are live on 3 locations, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And always be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So why don't we see how we do this, and let's bring them in, and they can join us right now. All right. Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
Good. It sounds like you have a lot of action over there, Dave. We hear sirens and everything.
Well, you know, it's funny. If I turn slow so I don't make everybody sick, you can see there's not a lot of room on this site at all. It's on a corner lot that's like a triangle. And so on both sides, there's a lot of traffic. The only thing you have between this job site and the road is about a 4.5, 5-foot sidewalk.
That's what makes modular construction so attractive, right? It's the how you can fit everything in a scale like that.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Jen.
High density urban infill. So modular is designed for this, right, Dave?
It's 100% designed for this. I have to tell you, it's not always, a perfect solution with modular or what have you. But, this is a project, Greg, that is 44 modules. It's 16,000 square feet, 16 multifamily units, and it's going to be up and in place in 10 days. Weatherproof, 70, 80% complete. And the beauty of this whole project is from the time they signed a contract to design and build has been 90 days from the time they walked into the door to the time we're putting this up on the podium behind us.
Wow.
So,
When we first started talking about it, it was 90 days ago. It's amazing how quickly this all came together.
Yeah, really, it really is. And I mean, everybody's here really busting their chops. And these set crew guys are really, really having at it. So I'm going to walk over here. I got some banter from the audience on the other side of the fence. And I'll show you what we have going on. So we have the podium up above, and I showed a little bit about this before. Greg, at some point during this show, I'm going to go up this ladder right here. You and Jennifer are talking, and I'm going to show you what's going on up there. And it's going to be a little sneak peek into what's coming at 3 o'clock. We're going to spend a lot of time at 3 o'clock really diving into this project with Colby Swanson.
So are we going to film you climbing up? That would be kind of fun.
No. We're not doing any filming of me. Yeah. So, well, let's kick it off. So this is great. So this is going to be our regular update that we always love to do. We're always appreciative of having you on the show. Jennifer is going to take the lead on everything that we're doing today, which is so awesome. And I think she's probably going to put me out of a job.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, we're definitely excited to have you on, Greg. And typically on your show. And what's so exciting about the topics we're covering today is that it's directly applicable to anyone who's building right now. And most importantly, with manufacturers, suppliers, builders. You're going to give us some tips and tricks on how we're going to navigate through the current situation and share with us just what's going on with the NAHB. Good.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things right off the bat. Professional women in building this week. It's a special week. It's one of the things that we're the most proud of as a federation. People that know me and have heard me give speeches and talks, I don't miss a chance to point out how far our professional women in building have come over a relatively short period of time when you look in relation to the history of our organization. but they're real pioneers in a lot of the build pack efforts, and everything from selling socks to luggage tags to even ice cream at some of our board meetings. But they're always in the forefront for build pack raising money there. But the leadership that they offer throughout, including committee involvement and everything they do, it adds an excitement level and an energy level that was very much needed, and it's so appreciated, and it's very well known. I mean, the women are expanding in every state, and a lot of the locals even have PWB chapters now, and it's very exciting, and we look for great things to come as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a report that was issued saying that the numbers are growing. The penetration of women in the business is definitely getting back to the levels before the Great Recession, which is super exciting. And definitely, even from where we sit, we're seeing a lot more people get involved. In fact, this morning, Dave had one of the architects on, Megan, who designed into the whole modular construction project for, what's happening where Dave is right now. So it is. Diversity inclusion obviously is a hot topic.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is.
That is a big week. Building systems coming up, where we have Dave moderating all the panels. That is we have the banner for the dates, right?
Yep, it's September 25th through the 21st through the 25th.
I lose track of where we are. So it's the 15th today. Okay, yeah. So
yeah, so it's definitely next week. We're kicking this off, and hopefully there's a lot of noise right now, but hopefully we are kicking this off the 21st to the 25th. Greg, it's a full week of building systems with the NAHB, and this is another collaboration because we have other organizations that are going to be on these panels, such as the University of Denver, who's doing the research study with Eric Holt, Tom Hardiman from the Modular Home Builders Institute. This is just really showing where our industry is heading and how we're all working together. And if you want to learn anything about offsite, next week's the place to do it at the National Association of Home Builders Building Systems Week.
Good. And the information, it's available on the website, and please sign up. That is, we've talked about it often, especially how exciting it is to see the student level involvement, everything from the competitions to their daily involvement on many job sites around the country. It's very exciting. And as you can see, we could see young people walking by left and right on that job site. So it's exciting.
There's a lot of young people, it really is exciting. So, yeah, and we're getting a lot of, people that are just stopping and watching. It's amazing when you think about how fast 16,000 square feet can be put together.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I love it. So here we go, Jennifer. Why don't we hop into where we're heading with today's show, because we have a lot of information to really cover today. And when I say that, I'm kind of looking at my small screen here with Greg. But Greg, I know you were going to give us some updates from the NAHB, right? But first of all, I know you and so many others just wanted to say, congratulations to the MMC for their great effort of putting this together behind us. And I really wanted to make sure that we gave them a quick shout out, because This is a big collaboration of people that are members of the NAHB and in the industry working hard together. So we just want to acknowledge that. But moving forward, and this is a big lead into this, is the goal for American dream of home ownership achievable for all who desire it. Jen, I'll let you and Greg take it from here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, Greg. Obviously this is the top of your list. So let's jump in.
See, what we try to focus on, and you could tell by, the excitement that happens and people see the possibility of new homes being constructed and people having options to where they're going to live. We always say that homes are where jobs go at night. It's so critical to everything. Now, the American dream is always challenged. Everything through regulations and timeframes, and financially is one of the biggest challenges that we face when we start trying to produce homes for virtually every sector. Every person wants to strive toward home ownership, and that's what we encourage, the ability to do that. That's why when we talk about the American dream of home ownership being affordable, that we have now gone into our second year talking about housing affordability being so key to our industry. All eyes have to keep that in mind, regardless of what you're talking about. And it's one of the ways that building systems and everything that's involved, you talk about so many different aspects of our industry coming together, but offsite construction is really key because it takes a lot of the elements that we keep, that we constantly get challenged by. Labor. It's the most effective use of labor. You look at material pricing, economies of scale with offsite construction are much more controlled, and the actual building environment itself is so much more controlled when you can take it offsite. Like where Dave is right now, when you deliver a completed module like that, all that everything from electric to the water hookup, everything is all set. You're popping it in place, and you're very quickly in business. So all of those things add to what we're trying to achieve, and that's to make sure that everybody has a safe, efficient home over their heads in some place that they really prefer to live in. That's why, people, we try to give them as many choices as we can, and we focus on that and make it our business as a federation to achieve that. Change lives, enhance communities, and change lives.
Absolutely. And when you talk about, what cost does, for the builder and then eventually for the homeowner, one thing that offsite construction offers an advantage to is a controlled cost. We do so much planning up front, so much of the design work is done on paper, and we try to reduce the changes that have to be done on site and any waste that gets produced on site. We pull that forward into the planning process. So I know that,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's one of the biggies too. When you think about it, if you really want to see a super successful factor that comes out of it, it's almost like a consequence. It's look at the much more efficient way that we're getting rid of waste and putting it to use. Right. You talk about minimizing something that was once a hazard almost, that the way that you have to cart it off just to keep your job sites clean. That effectiveness and efficiency is something that we've always strived for, and now we have the ability to do it as a matter of course, as a plan.
Right. Absolutely. So, you were talking about what happens when there is an increase, and maybe we go to point number 2 here. When you talk about that $1,000 increase, what that really means to the average household.
Yes. One of the things that we had to do, and we'll talk about this. So we have a codes affordability task force that we set up because codes is a big part that affects, that regulation really affects what happens on our job sites, and it affects costs. There's no question. So what we did was we put our terrific minds in our economic department, and we had them enhance some studies that we've had, and they've come up with this number that you're going to see. It infiltrates everything that we talk about in terms of affordability. So for every $1,000 that we increase the purchase price of a home, we lose 157 households. So for every $1,000 increase, we lose that many households that can no longer purchase that house. It's quite a number, right? When you think about it. But that's why when we talk about affordability, it's so important that we have that number. that we're able to point that out, because people are always so quick to say, but you know what though? Wouldn't it be great if we could do X, Y, and Z, without realizing that the implications could be far more impactful than originally thought. That's a real number that we carry through, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about that. That's right off the press, by the way. That's just been delivered. It's so important.
Well, Greg, to simplify this for somebody, if we increase it by $2,000, that's over 250,000 people, right?
Yes.
158. So that's a 250,000 worth of people that can't afford it.
Yes.
You just lock them right out.
And that's why, think about what $1,000 is, like a code change. How about this? You talk about requiring, you know what, we're going to send somebody else out just to take a quick look. That inspection, if that happens and it's $1,000 price tag, guess what? 158,000 people just walked out of the room because they can no longer buy. It's that serious when you look at it.
Right. And Dave, when you think about where you are right now and how those modules are, I don't know, between 70 and 80% already complete, again, this is another advantage of offsite construction. So, offsite construction can definitely help with that cost savings.
Yeah, Jen, I mean, that is truly the benefit we saw, on this project and some other projects is, it's controlled cost. You know what these are costing because all that homework's being done up front. We're buying in bulk typically at these manufacturing facilities. So when there are price increases, as long as you're in before that price increase, you can get your price held a little bit, unlike if you have to go to a labor yard, lumber yard or something local. But the true value in this is, you know your cost. You don't need a 20% contingency budget on our projects. You just don't need it. So I think exactly right. Between the cost of what is going into this and the lack of change orders that you have on these projects, it's also the time savings, because time is money. And when we talk about housing and have to get heads on beds, timing is everything. It's like trying to build a hotel, right? A hotel, the faster they can get it up and get heads on beds, right, the better it is for them and everybody else. And that's the same thing when it comes to our housing market. We need to have more heads on beds. And how do we get there? This is one solution that's out there for us to utilize to get there.
That's right. And you make a good point, too, in that it doesn't matter where that $1,000 price tag comes from. It could be the very first copy of plan requirement that adds $200 to the cost, and you carry those expenses forward. Increased recording fees and conveyance taxes, all of those things start having people be counted as no longer in the tent. It's really amazing when you start doing it that way.
Yeah, no, I love how you flip that, Greg, because you're talking about households and people and not the dollars. And when it becomes real, when you talk about the people behind the product, every decision suddenly feels a little bit different.
That's right. Everything. So when you're sitting in a planning and zoning meeting and they're looking at a builder developer, for example, about, they don't want to reach into their pocket. No, what you have to picture is just that little conversation you had. Well, we're telling you a $5,900 increase.
Right.
Oh, and then you just added the copies that you passed around. Now you're up to 6,000. Look at how many people now cannot buy these homes in your town. It's real, like you said. I mean, it's very effective.
Yeah.
But that's why, when we look at this lumber crunch that we're in now, right? And this is something that we should talk about for a couple minutes, because right now, the average per unit around the country is $17,000. Lumber prices, again, like we've seen in the recent past, have increased by, in the summer months, nearly over 170%. When you think about what that means to people that have contracts already signed, that people are trying to deliver and do the best they can, and these increases come up, right? 17,000. Just use the number that we were just talking about.
Right.
You know, doing it quickly in my head, right, Dave? That's why I took out my calculator before. Just doing it quickly in my head, it's over 2.6 million people that now can't afford each of those units that was increased by $17,000. That's scary. And that's the kind of situation that we have to explain. So when we look at lumber, one of the more important commodities, and the reason why lumber is so critical too, just like what Dave's doing on that site, when you deliver a unit, a modular unit like that, it's easily seen and recognized. When you're framing a house, that lumber over that period of time that you're framing, that's what people consider the house built, right? You come down your street and you look and you say, oh, well, look, that house is being built. The lumber is so noticeable. And I notice we've got all sorts of material being used there. That's great to see too. So that's why this lumber issue becomes so important to our membership and everybody in our industry, is that this is such, and no matter what you're doing, lumber is involved somehow. In a lot of cases more than others, especially when you're looking at residential real estate.
Well, and I think, go ahead, Jen.
Well, again, when you think about that and you convert that number into people and households, I mean, Dave, you're right now on a job site. I think it's a 16-unit multifamily development there. I mean, those 16 families are gone.
They are, so I had to move. They started banging away. So
you know, just following up on that lumber too, Jen, let's look at that next bullet. So we're at 17,000. And then, so just so that you realize how complicated this gets and some of the challenges that we face. So you see that's the special study we did. So now we move ahead to the 17,000. Mm-hmm. And then we go to the next bullet, and you'll see that we've had to really jump into this. We started with a lumber webinar, actually, for all our members, and you could get that right on NAHB.org too. You can listen to it and see how we did it and walked it through, because we have a number of different initiatives going on to try to address this, because obviously every single one of our members, even if you do one or two houses, that percentage is real on every single, when you bring a line item increase to any job like that, it's serious. So when we had the White House, we've talked to them a couple times now on the phone. One of the things that we're able to do is our outreach to the cabinet members is significant, to Secretary Ross and to the people that may, even Secretary Mnuchin in the Treasury takes an interest in these type of financial matters, because to us, we also have to provide potential fixes. So we had three asks that we unveiled for them. And the first one is just the industry itself. The delivery mechanisms have been held up. Their ability to harvest and deliver materials has been really affected by the pandemic. And they have reasoning why it's more in some cases and what has to be done. So we are encouraging that that's reviewed by the administration and Congress to look at how we can avoid some of those hurdles. There's too much at stake. Housing always leads us out of recession. And right now we are looking at very attractive scenarios throughout the country where housing is really stabilizing and leading us through this pandemic. And so we need to keep that up. Something like this can stop second piece that we looked at is we have a lot of national forests. This administration has been successful in harvesting those properly too. We're not talking about just cutting everything down and leaving it to waste. We have enough problems with that with our forest fires. But what we're talking about is controlled the clearing of lumber in a good way. It actually, if you look at the studies, it shows that when done properly, even in our towns throughout the country, when they do it, your utilities take advantage of that. We need to really double down on those efforts now on publicly owned land. And the third ask, which we think should have a lot of merit, is trying to look at our relationship with Canada through the treaties. But right now you see companies on both sides of the border. They own a lot of the lumber companies, sometimes jointly. And what's happened is that has not helped with pricing. And we have to help some of those barriers of using our Canadian friends to bring lumber in and drive these prices down, at least get our arms around them and control this. So that's critically important, that these treaties, even if it's temporary fixes, so that we could get over a 17,000 increase. In a rental unit too, it's up around 6 or more thousand. So you're talking real numbers across the board here. So those are some of the things that we are doing in conjunction with the leaders in our industry and with our membership. And we have all the stories every time we meet, and we wheel out the people and the specifics. And I must say, it's very well received. We're known as providing honest information and accurate information. That's why the numbers that we're talking about now are so important, because you will start to see, and you heard it here on Dave Cooper Live first, that number will be used as these topics continue to be talked about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you bring up so many great points, Greg, and really now more than ever, there's a need for collaboration among different verticals within housing, whether you're a supplier, a manufacturer, a builder, designers, architects, because just one set of plans, right? That hard copy, that $200 just to print another set of plans, just escalates from there. Do you feel like there's a stronger sense of unity or collaboration within the NAHB right now because of all of this?
I do. That's a great point, because what happens, and you hate to have it under these circumstances, you always hear that kind of thing, but there's nothing like a tragic event to pull everybody together. And certainly when you talk in terms of business and what we do, in uncontrollable, unpredictable increase of $17,000 per housing unit on average, that's significant, right? I mean, 2.6 million for every one of those per unit increases we lose. Think about that. 2.6 million households can't buy when you see that increase. It's staggering. Yes, yeah, it drives us all together into 110. It really does.
Yeah. So let's go into the next point. You talked about the communication with the White House. Tell us a little bit more about here. Landscape for housing, zoning regulations, lumber prices.
So and we always talk about, Secretary Carson, HUD Secretary, he's always been such a good friend of the industry. In fact, Building Systems has a special place in their heart for Secretary Carson, as well as we expand our innovative building on the mall. That'll come back next year. That's done with NAHB in conjunction with HUD, and we will be able to show a lot of the offsite production and the latest technologies there. But Secretary Carson has a real special spot for us, because he actually listens to us when we talk about this current building landscape. that we're going through, and what it means when we talk about the zoning regulations, and especially the lumber prices that we just talked about, how all those things are leading toward virtually being flying in the face, if you will, but certainly being headwinds to a sound housing industry when we're trying to provide for as many households as we can. In a lot of these things, and they know this, that through their hard work, we're able to, Brian Montgomery, who's his right-hand man, and Mark Calabria, they're all good people that work in FHA and the FHFA, and there's so many different. I'm picturing our mortgage roundtable and everybody that sits around and works toward this end of housing affordability. And when everybody's aiming in the right direction and pushing forward, we make a lot of headway. Secretary Carson, one of our dear friends, one of our industry's dear friends. Oh, and he's with us on Thursday, by the way. Yeah, Thursday. So make sure that you tune in for that. Leaders can get on the phone, and he'll be answering our questions. And
oh, great!
Just fabulous.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, this is why, we talk about membership into these organizations all the time, and what NAHB is doing on our behalf. There's a lot of good work that's happening behind the scenes, and that's something else we wanted to talk about in terms of the next point, our escalation clause. Can you talk about what the NAHB is doing here and some of the language it's sharing with its members?
Sure. This is a great example, Jen, that of what happens. You asked about how everybody comes together. Well, we saw our economics team with their contribution on how many families, how many households get knocked out. Here, our legal team, and we have some terrific advocates for our industry and our legal community, and they got together. And the challenge, of course, is, hey, look, this $17,000 increase that we didn't bank on, how do we get through it? Let's say that we hold the neck and get through it this time. What do we do in the future? So we try to provide as many tools as we can. This escalation clause, there's a lot of time and thought that went into it. And what happens is that we have to make it universal so that it fits with members. So it's really quite a concept that you could build into your purchase and sale agreement for every time that you sell a house, do a remodeling project, or build a multifamily unit. What happens is that you can set benchmarks for what certain materials should cost, or overall materials. And at a certain point, if there's too much of a percentage increase, if you go off out of scale, then it calls for an additional contribution by the customer, by the buyer, or whoever is contracted to get the end result of the work, so that the builders and developers are protected in that case to some extent. It also gives a protection in that if anything got too exorbitant, they could find their way out. They could walk away. But the key is, to me, you still have to run it by all your local attorneys and get what your jurisdiction would allow and what can prepare for. And you don't just drop it into a market and say, hey, here's a fix-all. To me, when you have a real estate deal, everybody's sort of put in what they can at the time. This is just a way to develop the conversation that you do have to look at additional burdens and figure out where to assess those. So this gives everybody a chance to identify it up front on how it will be discussed in the future. I think that this is a great tool, and while the very definition of this, needing it, is because of the uncertainty that we're trying to protect against, but this adds to the certainty of being able to discuss it in a helpful manner at a very critical time.
Right.
$17,000 addition that nobody saw coming, that's pretty critical.
Right. Right. It pulls forward the conversation. And again, this show, Tuesday Building Modular is really a conversation that we have with builders, manufacturers, suppliers who are looking at on-site construction. This is a tool, this is baseline language that anybody can use to have that uncomfortable conversation early in the game, as opposed to so for anyone out there who's getting ready to supplier with a manufacturer, really they need to check this language out.
And so I think the next bullet we actually talk about that a little bit, right? Yeah. So if we look, you go to NAHB.org. It was just and if you pop into the search menu, you just put escalation clause and it pops right up for you. And you and I had hit on this a little bit earlier, how it really is for everybody. It's for the customers, suppliers, subcontractors. Everybody can benefit from this. The knowledge, about his lumber, type of the pandemic itself had a lot of discussions about where do you put those delay burdens? Who pays for that? Where does that go? Can people just, rental moratorium, eviction moratoriums now? I've been on a number of calls for that because that's really about who's taking on that risk and cost. So if you allow tenants to stay in without paying rent, well, a lot of your smaller landlords, when their mortgages and electric bills become due, they fall short. So if there's no rental subsidy as a part of those conversations, it's an unfair burden somewhere, and in that case, on your smaller landlords. Every consequence, and remember the number too, how many people have to walk away from the table whenever you start throwing increases around, especially those that are unpredictable.
Right, absolutely. So we talked about how you can find the information. You go to NAHB.org and you type in the search bar escalation clause. Now, one thing we discovered when we did this, you needed to be signed in. So this is another added for members of the NAHB and things that are happening and what builders and manufacturers and suppliers can look to the NAHB for. Not just the data, but also solutions that they can incorporate into their everyday business.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a great point. We opened up with professional women in building, our building systems, our young professional groups, and we go all the way through about, our industry and the tent that encompasses our industry. How many people we have in that tent is really valuable as we start carrying our affordability message forward in everything else we do as an industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hey, why don't we take a moment, you guys? We got some comments in the banner in the comments section. Also, I don't know if you guys see it. They're getting ready to lift this module behind me, so I'm not trying to steal the show with what's happening back there. But everybody always likes to see that fun stuff.
That's what we're here for.
And I think though this conversation, Greg, and what you guys are doing at the NAHB to help protect builders and developers and the consumer. Because of these massive price increases and what happens, and like Jen said, being able to have that conversation at the beginning of the contract and save people a lot of headaches when they get further into it, I think is an outstanding and amazing thing. So I know, Jen, you're probably going to put the links and all that in the banners and what have you. So, but why don't we say hi to a few people? I mean, we always have all of our good friends. You always got Mark Bare Naked Willie joining us. He's always pumping our Friday show, which I love. So Mark says hello, and he had a great comment down below as well, and we'll go a little further into that. We have Andrew Seeley joining us today. A lot can happen in 90 days with Offsite. You're absolutely right. It really can. And then we have our good friend out in California, Jerry McCaughey. Hey, Jerry from Integra. He is a leader in the panelized industry, Greg. If you don't know Jerry, he's somebody that you should get to know a little bit of.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's fantastic.
All right. We got Tom Reddy from Synergy Steel. No better way to show the value of offsite and building modular. Think about what the compressed schedule does for our industry. We may very well be the answer to the industry's housing apartment shortage. Synergy Steel is providing light gauge steel walls. All right, so he's talking about Synergy Steel. That's what they do, is light gauge steel walls and roofs for the modular and commercial industry. And we talked a little bit about this too, because these guys are starting to gobble up some of the stick-built work.
It's funny, Tom, I just did give you a shout out when Dave had him over his shoulder. I pointed it out.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Couldn't have an advertisement. Hey, Dave, putting that up, I think they're going to grab the back of your trousers.
I always wanted to. Well, you know, one of my memes that I wanted to do is make it look like I was hanging from the crane and at the same time lifting that module. But they wouldn't hang me by my belt from the crane. They said OSHA'd have a problem with it.
But you got your lifting helmet on. I think with your helmet, you're all set. Yeah,
no, I do. All right, let's say we have a couple more shout outs. We have David Mowry says, congrats, Modular Coalition. That is awesome. And then here's our good friend, Mark Willie. Dave is pointing on a modular unit driving down the road right behind him while Greg and Jennifer are talking. Brilliant. Kids in the candy store.
That's right.
You know, so true, man. We have George Ryman joining us from good old Phoenix, Arizona. What's happening, George? And here's a comment from Joel Hutchins from Splash Modular. Imagine the costs associated with the rework of design intent into running the supply chain and manufacturing technology. We can make a very big difference by just simplifying the process.
That's exactly
what do you think,
right.
Greg?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, listen, if you guys are just joining us, and these two above me here, they were going nuts on the conversation. I love it. So hit that like and share button. Please, let's share the word about what we're doing here. And tune into the conversation. You can ask questions, comments. This is an opportunity for us to share our knowledge with Greg Ugalde, Jennifer, and myself, and others who are tuning into this, so we can have a collaborative conversation, so we can move our industry forward in a positive way. So, all right, Jennifer, I'll let you get back to it.
You know, Jen, just a quick point on what Dave said, too. What you two are doing for the industry is so crucially important. And you can tell by that who's list that you just went through of people and all those others out there that are starting to support your effort. You've made personal commitments to get this and see it through for a year. It's so important, the voice of our industry being heard like this. And you're seeing people like when I brought Judy on and others that we're going to have on in the future. Everybody has to start singing out of the same hymnal, and you've taken it upon yourselves to make that collaboration work, and it's going to be key. One of the things you saw, what every comment had in common was that it points out the same facts that we need to communicate, and we also need to carry that message forward. On anything that we do, that's how you make the points the most successful. And that's what this is all about. You know, look at, you're standing down there away from your family in hockey for a couple days, getting stuff dropped on your head and the people shouting cat calls at you. I don't think we couldn't hear those. They're walking by. I was going to give them some material too, Dave, but I think
they... Right.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for those kind words. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but Dave is blushing under the hard hat, as am I. But really, that is what this is about, you know, unifying the different verticals within housing to bring forward success stories, case studies of where things are working. And, you know, this is taking a page out of Jerry's book is, you know, precision plus performance equals profit. When we are all working at the highest level, when we are all working together, it flows down to the bottom line. And that's what it's all about. It's, you know, when we all can flash that amazing pro forma, even with the lumber price increases, you know, it's a small win when some of that comes from working together. Actually, it's a big win when that comes from working together. And the MMC, the fact that Dave is down there today where, you know, all of these different entities came together during a crisis. Who knew that something like this could happen? And it has.
Yeah, it has.
I remember
on several occasions.
on Dave, and you'll remember this, one of the first calls, in fact, it might have been at Building Systems right around that meeting. And the discussion was that you need a real get a project off the ground to be seen. You have to have boots and construction on the ground to make the conversation, to further it and to make it valid and to show everybody what you're talking about. This is that example. This is how you get to the next step, because so many people sit around tables and visit things with just concepts and dreams. It's another thing to produce like it's going on today. That's key.
Yeah, it really is. It really is key, and like I said, I mean, when was the last time you heard 20, 30 factories and suppliers all joining together to make something happen for the good of the industry, not just for themselves? And I think that's a really, really good point, Greg. Well, listen, guys, it's 49 minutes in. Jen, I want you to keep carrying on the conversation with the last few banners. I got to log myself out so Greg doesn't pick on me as he sees me climb a ladder.
Yeah.
Right? And your comments are just in time because I don't know if you saw the guys behind me on the street. They just wanted to be on camera so bad. So it was fun. They were being really nice.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that worked out. Sometimes people aren't quite as kind.
Yeah, no, he was being kind. So
yeah, that was good.
You guys go for it.
So let's set up that secret candid camera for when he climbs the ladder that he doesn't know about.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure Ocean will love it.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Jen, what else do we have? I think we have a couple more things. Well,
yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about registration for IBS.
The symbols are actually showing, I think, too, that you guys have an additional banner on how to go to the NAHB.org anytime that, there it is, so that you can sign up. But the key here is that, and I've talked about this in the past too, is that the task force that we have set up, it reviews all, it's 20 conditions that we review, and it's very professionally done, where we look and everything gets a green, yellow, or red light. And it's everything from the convention center in Orlando to their state and local officials, to what's required, to the airlines, what the hotel industry is offering and what they can do, the delivery system, getting people back and forth from the hotels to the convention and to the floor exhibits. So what we continue to do is monitor how many people are interested still. What does that mean? That means that we have to really look at our exhibit space, and we also have to look at our membership. Normally we're right around 100,000 people, and we try to look. Obviously, this isn't that kind of year. However, it's still critical that we get this right. There will be, and we've talked about this, a healthy component of virtual. So that means that a lot of the education we'll be able to do, because think about it, a lot of the classrooms, if you picture some of the great things about IBS, where you would walk into a marketing seminar, I saw you guys go to a bunch of those too, and literally there's thousands of people, including 1,000 people sitting along the wall and standing in the back, and that's going to look quite different.
Right.
But those types of education, all the gathering places, everything from the lounges for build pack to multifamily to education. And we have a lot of the pod type areas where people can gather and listen to discussions, participate. And they're all tools that are so very helpful. Well, these things are the parts that are in flux. So the update for today is that we are now coming back at the end of the month. At that point, we will see international is really prohibitive in a way that anybody that comes over to try to exhibit, they're tied up for 14 days. And a lot of the companies can't afford to do that. So we're looking at everything. The snapshot that we take in a couple weeks is really going to dictate a lot. We've opened up registration. I have to tell you, it's not going badly. There's a lot of people that feel cooped up that are willing to throw their hat in the ring. But here's the things that we worry about in the message for today is we have to keep an eye on any spikes that are projected to come and to see if that's going to be more of a reality or an overstatement. We see it already happening with schools opening, with sports starting, and with all these different attempts. We can't even have indoor dining at this point, when you really think about that, in many areas. But we still are, and there's a lot of influence coming from areas that just don't feel the pandemic pressures like we do on the East and West Coast, and especially in the Northeast. For example, in our own state, that if you come back from there, you're quarantined for 14 days or you pay a fine. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but that's really the key, because there's certainly excitement. But if we do respike, for example, at the wrong time, and we've spent money that we can't recoup, and people just say it's unsafe again, that's bad on us. So those are the types of things that we have to keep in mind. But everybody should go and give us an indication on what you're thinking and sign up. Look at the hotel spaces that are available. Remember, it's not until February 9th through 11th, but it does start getting interesting because we look at also all the other events that are planned, what they're doing, whether they're going to carry out a live face-to-face event or if they're all going virtual. So a lot more in store. Let's keep an eye on it. And Dave, back to you on the roof.
Hey, listen, I am registered at going to IBS, which I love. And we're also doing a Tech Bike session at IBS. So we're going to be in the Tech Bikes presenting in some other places. So I'm hopeful that it happens, and hopefully we can do it all safe. You know, it's all about safety and making sure that we take care of each other. So I am sitting on the roof. As you can see, down below is the crane here. And we got the beautiful Washington, D.C. Not too far over that way is actually the White House. So we're pretty close to the White House. In fact, our hotel's in walking distance of it. I'm not going to walk around too much here. But as you can see, this is the module they just picked. So you can see the crane. Whoop, somebody flipped the screen on me here. You want me to do a full screen? I'll do it, Jen.
Do that.
Yep. So you can see we got the crane. This is the module that they're setting right now. They're working on this corner over here to get it tied in tight. And then when you tune in at 3 o'clock today, we're going to walk through how this is all laid out up here. I'll go over how the plates are laid and what all the markings mean, you know, and you can see the big pieces of threaded rods that are coming through to buckle all this down. This is not a Lego set. This is the real deal when it comes to construction. But what they're doing is they're working their way from the back forward. You can see the brick stairwell right there, and they're just building all the way around it. We're hoping to have 4 to 6 of these modules in place by the end of today, and then keep going. This is about 10 days worth of setting, 44 modules. Got to get them in, and like I said, here, I'll show you one more time. You know, that traffic down there behind us is what we're dealing with, trying to bring all these big trucks in and these modules. So it's a little bit of a slow go, but we're having a great time doing it. I can tell you that, and these guys are amazing how hard they work.
Show them where my office is, Dave. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Where's your office? Is it right over there, right? Right over there?
You're right on M Street, 15th and M. Yeah. So, but just explain to everybody too what you're talking about here, that you know, you're not that far off from being able to run water, flush toilets, and flip on the light switch in these units.
Hey, listen, we're already pre-plumbed. The sheetrocks are in, the kitchens are in, the tiles in, the floor in most areas in. Right, we just have to tie those things together. But you're absolutely right. You want to learn about that? We're going to talk about this afternoon. And Greg, I'm here all day tomorrow too. We're going to keep walking through this set at least till Thursday. I wish I could stay for 10 days, but my kids would have my butt.
That's right, and so would your wife. She's the one that has to run the kids around to the sports and stuff. So
I'm very blessed.
I remember going through the same thing, and I used to catch heck everywhere whenever I was doing something like this too.
Right.
But that's outstanding there. Look at the people too. Everybody's trying to get on the camera, by the way. It's great stuff. This is fantastic. This is exactly what your fans want to see.
Yeah, we will. We'll get up on the roof in between floors because we got fire sprinkler systems already running these things. So we'll show all that. And I think it's great for anybody that's out there. If you just want to learn a little bit about it and know what it's all about, this is what we do on Building Modular. And it just so happened that this is the same day Greg comes on to enjoy it with us. And that's awesome. We should do this all the time, Greg.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Yeah, think about it, though. If we had one of these every time I come on, think of all those hundreds of thousands of households that would be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, there you go, developers. So if you want Greg Ugalde on, start building. We'll come see you.
Well, we had a comment come in, Greg and Dave. I think there's higher aspirations for you.
Greg Ugalde for president, Dave Cooper for vice. Hey, I'd gladly serve with you, Greg.
That's pretty funny. You know what? Mark gets one of these, right? That's his trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Greg, this has been awesome having you on, and a lot's going on. We have, Building Systems Council Week next week, like we mentioned. This is Professional Women in Building Week this week.
Yeah.
IBS registration is open. We have the MMC set. Dave will be back on live at 3 p.m. So definitely a busy time of year. And thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today.
Thank you. Happy to do it. Everybody keep up the great work. You guys, and travel safe too, Dave, when you come back. You got another day, but still, this is very exciting. And everybody too, remember that you can go to YouTube and you can watch these anytime. Make sure that you subscribe. And, everybody from colleges and everything else are using these things because they turn out to be very informative. You can watch a few hours of these and pick up an awful lot of value in the statistics and just the information that's being offered.
Yeah, 100%. We're always here to answer questions and help. So we appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, Greg.
All right. Hey, be careful going down that ladder.
Yeah, I definitely will. All right, Jennifer, I'm on location, Jennifer. So listen, everybody, again, hit that like and share button. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be live again at 3 o'clock. Jennifer, you take us out today. You deserve it. You did a heck of a job. I'm out of a job. I'm just going to go hang out with Greg.
Well, thank you for that. But yes, everyone, please tune in at 3 p.m. and check out the YouTube channel. A lot of great information there. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
I guess I got to hit the outro, huh, Jen? I'm working on it. Hold on.